I had traveled hundreds of miles to that lost village deep in Paraguay. My interest in legends was more than curiosity. It was my work. Since I started my YouTube channel dedicated to folklore and horror stories, I've been chasing forgotten narratives, the kind that survive only in the memory of the elders. That's how I heard about the Pombero, the forest's guardian, a silent wanderer, owner of a whistle no one can mistake. There were no tourist guides, no road signs pointing the way, only vague clues in forums and anonymous comments. I followed dirt roads that seemed endless, until the village finally appeared, almost hidden by the trees. The houses were simple, made of clay and wood. In the center, a stone cross guarded the square. I stepped into a small shop lit by a single dim bulb. I asked for water, and, almost as if testing a superstition, I asked, "They say the Pombero walks these woods. Is it true?" The silence that followed was heavy. Eyes looked away. Even the bulb seemed to flicker. Then an old woman with braided white hair slowly approached. "You don't speak that name at night." He listens. With firm voice, she explained, "The Pombero protects the forest, but punishes those who mock him. To appease him, one must leave offerings, tobacco, rum, bread." I smiled, skeptical, but the old woman gripped my arm with surprising strength. "Respect him, stranger. Those who mock never return." That night, in the simple room where I stayed, I noticed how quickly the village fell into silence. Locked doors, shuttered windows, only the wind dragging itself through the forest, and beneath the weight of that silence, the strange feeling that something was waiting for my disbelief. The night felt thicker than any I'd known. From the room, the sounds of the forest reached me muffled, as if even the wind was too afraid to cross those walls. Curiosity, however, won. I grabbed my flashlight and the camera. I opened the door slowly, hearing the hinges creak. Outside, the moon carved long shadows into the dirt road. I walked toward the edge of the woods. The air suddenly turned cold. Branches cracked, though no wind stirred. And then I heard it. A whistle, thin, prolonged, coming from nowhere. I froze, held my breath. The sound ended abruptly, leaving the silence heavier than before. I laughed nervously, convincing myself it was only the wind. But when I turned to head back to the room, I heard it again. This time, right next to my ear. A dog barked in the distance. Doors slammed shut across the village. I stood motionless, unable to take another step. For the first time, I felt that maybe I wasn't alone. I barely slept that night. The whistle echoed in me, even when the silence reigned. At dawn, I found some villagers gathered near the stone cross. I asked directly, "What does that whistle mean?" A man with a straw hat didn't hesitate. "That's the Pombero. He doesn't like those who wander at night." The old woman repeated her warning. "To avoid his wrath, you must leave offerings, tobacco, rum, bread. He accepts simple things, but they matter to him." Others confirmed with their own stories. Dead chickens, missing objects, people lost in the woods, returning days later without memory. I laughed, trying to ease the tension. "And if I don't do it?" The man lifted his eyes, serious. "Then you're already marked." The words fell like stone. A chill crawled up my spine, but I clung to my skepticism. Just folklore, I told myself. Deep down, though, I already knew I had crossed an invisible line. I tried to go on with my recordings, but everything had changed. The second night, I woke to scratching at the window. Thin marks, like fingernails. The third night, the door slammed shut, though locked from inside. My flashlight disappeared, only to reappear the next morning, lying abandoned in the middle of the square. Barefoot prints began appearing around the inn, long, human, but leading nowhere. When I showed them to the man in the hat, he only muttered, "He already walks with you." Later, while reviewing recordings, I heard the whistle again, embedded in the tape itself, as if recorded from within the device. My skepticism crumbled. The Pombero was no longer just a legend. He had become a constant presence, a breath at my neck, an unavoidable call. That morning, I decided I had to confront him. If the forest was his domain, that's where I'd find answers. That night, I stepped into the woods, carrying only flashlight and recorder. The village slept in sepulchral silence. No one dared to step outside. The air inside the forest was heavier, humid. Shadows twisted and fled the light as though alive. I whispered my impressions into the recorder, but even my voice sounded muffled. Then the first whistle, faint. Another followed, from another direction. Soon, from all directions. The flashlight flickered and went out. That's when I saw him. A tall silhouette, arms too long, eyes glowing in the pale moonlight. A shiver ran down my spine. I clutched the recorder to my chest, and then something touched my shoulder. Cold, rough, too human to be wind. The next whistle didn't echo in the distance. It rose right against my ear. I ran. The camera slipped from my hands. Branches tore my skin, but nothing was worse than the whistle circling me. Sometimes distant, sometimes so close they vibrated inside me. The sound wasn't human, too sharp, too deep, as if many mouths were whistling at once. Bit by bit, everything in my backpack vanished. The flashlight, the recorder, gone. Not dropped, taken. Invisible hands stripping me bare. I stumbled over a root and fell hard. Dirt filled my mouth. Blood touched my lips. When I looked up, he was there. The Pombero, tall, thin, wrong in proportion. Arms like branches, fingers too long. His body swayed like solid smoke. And the eyes, two glowing yellow orbs fixed on me. He didn't advance. He only stood there, whistling low, mocking my escape. The sound sank into my chest, crushing the air from my lungs. I understood then. He didn't want to be seen. He wanted to be remembered. And at that moment, I knew I might never leave those woods. At dawn, the villagers found only remnants. The fallen camera, the torn backpack, belongings scattered as if placed deliberately. Of the traveler, nothing. They weren't surprised. To them it was clear. Those who defy the Pombero never return. Some swore they'd heard during the night a long whistle retreating deep into the forest. Others saw footprints vanish abruptly at the tree line. In the shop, the old woman lit a candle before the stone cross and whispered, "May the Pombero keep him or consume him." The village resumed its routine, doors locked at dusk, silence heavy, wind dragging itself through the trees, and every so often, someone swore they heard the whistle again. Months later, another traveler arrived, young, backpack strapped tight, curiosity brighter than caution. In the shop, he asked with a smile, "I've heard there's a creature here, the Pombero. Is it real?" The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. Only the old woman answered, "Don't speak that name at night." The boy chuckled and walked toward the forest. He carried a camera. That very night, under the pale moonlight, a whistle echoed through the branches. Gentle, prolonged, unmistakable. Some villagers shut their windows. Others crossed themselves silently. And once again, the legend breathed. The Pombero never disappears. He only waits for the next one who dares to doubt.